This is my Textiles Unit 4 book, which I had 12 weeks to do, and that does seem like not a lot of time involved to produce such a big body of work, but it's about, with this project in particular, it's all about time management and how you use your time efficiently. Now, by the time you get to Unit 4, with textiles in particular, you'll be fluent on the sewing machine, you'll know it inside out, you'll know how to work printers and everything. So it's kind of expected by the exam board that you have all the techniques and you don't need to experiment that much. So when you start with this project, you really need to hit the ground running. So basically, start off with an introduction, you get given a theme. For me, my theme was issues, and decided to look at issues within religion because it was an area I'm interested in. So whatever theme you're giving, pick an area that you're interested in to keep, because you don't want to pick a theme you're going to get bored with, because then the project you'll hate doing it. So pick a theme you're going to love all the way till the end. So I started looking at world fairs and all different religions across the world, and another thing is active research, actually going out and, I mean, you could just take pictures of the internet of churches, but I'm part of a church and I went and recorded everything within the church, and that really does make your research your own. And then I started looking at Christianity because it's such a broad scope of research you can do. There's really anything you can make for it. So with Christianity, I made a collage, and it's good to make things like this. And again, it's all about layers. Like, your work has to look individual. So when you're doing your mind maps and you're doing your ideas, make them look like your theme. So with this, I burnt a lot of the paper and I made it look old. I used lecture set and stuff, and I really built up a sort of book that looks individual. And again, if you're doing, for example, religion, visit churches, pick up leaflets, get a folder basically. You should keep a folder of you at all times of just research and stuff you picked up. And then I did historical research, and this was just introducing to the examiner what I did. Because it's important that your book is meant to document a journey from an idea to an actual finishing point. And if it stops and starts in between, you will lose marks. But if every single thing you do is backed up with research and you say why you've done it, it will be a fluent journey, and then that will really impress the examiner. And it will make you work coherent, because you don't want someone to turn the page and be like, what's that? You want somebody to turn the page and think, oh, I've seen that before and it looks good. So it's important to find designers that really are in touch with the theme. So I looked at Gabriella Pascucci, who's a costume designer who worked on the Borgias, and initially I thought, oh, how am I going to respond to somebody who makes giant elaborate ball dresses and ball gowns and religious wear from the 14th century? And you don't need to. You can look at how they've worked at it. So for me, it was looking about the techniques she used and responding to it. So this is a sampler with Christian imagery, using the same techniques she used in her costumes. So don't feel like you have to make something, you don't have to make a dress for a response. I mean, you could, but you don't have time. So samplers and things, or just bits of the garment, are really good to make, to really put in your work. Now, I'm not a fan of mainstream designers because I think examiners see so many textile books that just have pages and pages of Vivienne Westwood and Alexander Mcqueen in, and they get sick of it. So if you find designers nobody else has looked at, it will show your work off. Now I say that I looked at Alexander Mcqueen for this project because his Autumn-Winter 2013 collection was perfect to use. He based his on, well, it's Sarah Burton, but she based it on Catholic iconography. So I looked at all the things that worked, and I went and bought Dazed, which had a whole book dedicated to the actual collection. And it cost 20 quid to buy, but it's all part about sacrificing. I mean, if you are passionate about fashion and textiles, you will be prepared to just spend money on it because it's good. It shouldn't be an issue. And then for this, I didn't know how I would respond, because I mean, initially I wanted to make a head cage, but I thought, well, how could I do it easily? So I just made a shoulder pad. So don't feel like you have to make something big, but if you can make something based on the responses, great. It's also good to make samples and things that can be worn by people, because then it shows to the examiner how this piece would be worn on a catwalk. Another good thing to do is contact designers. This is a Russian designer called Tigran Vertesian. I found him on Tumblr. And if you don't know what Tumblr is, Tumblr's just an image site, it's like a social network. But as an artist, it's a really good place to be inspired, and his work cropped up on my dashboard. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he had a website, and I messaged him. And I wasn't expecting a reply, but he sent me a really informative email back. So again, it's really good to talk to artists and designers. And from his work, it inspired me to chalk onto garments, and that was my idea to do. And then I looked at John Pagorti again because he's my favourite, but his work. I mean, if you have a favourite designer, yes, use them, but only if it's relevant. You don't want designers in your book that aren't relevant. So really get people that really are inspired to your theme. Then I got to the point where I started generating my ideas, and I did a conclusion of my research. And I mean, this page kind of sets out what I want to do and what my theme's going to be. And again with the backgrounds and stuff, if you think it's feminism, it sounds quite cliched, but really go into detail with it. So look at symbols and iconography, that's part of it, and build it up in your background. Because examiners don't want to see a book that's just white page after white page after white page. They're going to want a book that's beautiful and decorative. So when you do your ideas, it's good to think of 4 different things. Well, for me it was 4, some people do 3 or 5. 4 different things you could make. So I've got capes, I've got robes, I've got skirts, I've got dresses. And your final pieces don't need one thing. So you can design a dress and not make it, that's fine, as long as you've done it. And this is all recording and experimentation, which is what you need to build up your assessment objectives. Again, for textiles, especially textiles, it might not seem like drawing's important, but it actually is. So take items from your theme and draw them. So for me it was about crucifixes and stuff. And again with photographs, if drawing's not your strength, photograph things as well, because that's just as important. So when you start your concepts for Unit 4, by now it's expected that you can do the work without having to use the teacher's help. I mean, they are there for help, but if you, it's all about like self-directed study. So for me it was about collages incorporating, so I looked at positive aspects of the church and then negative aspects of the church. And these collages actually influenced my final piece, which was the priest's robe. So experiment with like as many mediums as you can, such as radiograms. Like I'd never done radiograms before, but I had time to do it, and I planned to do it. So then I sewed into them using the sewing machine and stuff. And I kept doing it and kept doing it and churning out work. And if you don't like something, still put it in, it's all relevant. And again, Photoshop, my skills were getting better, and by this point, don't just print off a photograph of someone's collection and stick it in. What I did was I looked at Gareth Pugh, who's another great designer. I took clothes from his winter collection and put my work on top of it, and that just shows how your designs would be worn on the catwalk. That's another really good thing to do. By this point I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to make, but I wasn't sure. So I started looking at the proper symbolism of textiles and religion and how it inflames people, because one symbol such as a swastika can really make people angry. And that interested me, so I started making pieces that were covered in iconography. And using research I'd gathered from the church, because like I say, research is everything, and I started building up research and using the text to put on the work. And another good thing to do is questionnaires. So I did a questionnaire around the whole art college, and I got people to talk about what they believed in. And I asked people to write, one part of the questionnaire was any other comments. So if you're doing feminism, for example, you could ask, oh, how do you feel about this image? And it could be an image of a woman with body hair. And using the comments people associate with it, you can use it in your work. So I made a chalk piece based on Tigran's work of the Lord's Prayer. And then I started really enjoying it, because if you enjoy your project you're doing, you'll love it even more. So continue to back up your work with fashion illustration, as well as the final pieces. So for me, I started building up lecture set and textiles on chalk, with all the sort of responses people had given me in the questionnaire. And concept 3, the previous 2 concepts were basically illustration, and I kind of felt like I had to make something that was textiles, because your final piece will be. So my final concept for this, I mean, some people do 4 concepts, but that's a lot, and since you've only got 12 weeks for Unit 4, it's good to really focus it in. So with concept 3, I simply did 3 concepts, and then I filled this one with all the fashion pieces. So I just started making initial shapes. Some people call them templates, some people call them patterns, whatever. And I started using shapes and things and putting them in a book, saying what could I use this for. And then I started researching priest garments and what priests wear. And that gave me an idea of making a final piece that was a priest's robe. My final idea generation. Hang on, one second. Final idea generation. Make 4 final, have your final piece in your head, your idea of what you're going to make, and then have 4 pieces that are responding to it. So have little changes in the design, colours and what's on the text and things. That's all fine. But again, if your work's on templates, really make it individual. And really, if you're going to do templates, do fashion illustration that nobody else has done. Because if you can make your work look like it's your own, it's amazing, and you will get so many marks for that. Again, look at degree students, and look at fashion courses, and some fashion courses offer parts of their work. Look at it and talk about what you could do. And finally, present your final design in a way that says what it is, what it does, and what it aims to achieve. So for me it was a priest's robe that looked at the church and what it meant, and then you've really got to really push the boat out. And if your work's individual, no one else has done it, you will get more marks. And With this project, I was originally going to take a pattern and make a piece from the pattern, but because I didn't, this was quite an experimental final piece, but that's fine, you know, if you can still experiment, it's great. And then you need to do final design development, which is where you back up all your final piece work. And again, do a photo shoot. Don't just put the garments on a dress and dress dummy and do it. Really make a really atmospheric photo shoot, and then finish with evaluation. And I decided to end my Unit 4 project with the quote, "When you dive in your kingdom you'll see it's 2 foot wide and 6 foot deep." So if you can end it on a really nice quote, it's good for the examiner, and that's that.